So, once again, Mario, welcome to the Montreal Podcast Show. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you very much, Kathy. It's a pleasure to be here.
Perfect. Before we dive in, I want to give the audience a brief overview of what we will discuss. Okay. We can begin with your early life and your professional journey. We'll talk about also the different type of challenges, even failures, that you face in your early life or professional life also, and how those have actually shaped the person that you've become today. We can touch up a bit on COVID 19 and its impact on the economy right now. And finally, we'll pivot more on some personal things like your achievements and your personal message for the audience. How's that sound?
Very good.
All right, so let's dive in. Okay, so let's say we were in high school together back in the days, right? How would you describe yourself back then?
Incredibly shy.
Oh, really?
Uh, let's say that I was not physically fortunate. I was battling a huge weight problem, and as if this was not enough, acne pimples eventually appeared. The methodology with respect to making glasses thinner was not up to par in those days, so thick
Sure.
glasses. So yeah, I think you get the point. So that made me a bit of a shy guy, the guy standing at the back of the room, not
Mm-hmm.
talking too much, until eventually humor got me
Yeah.
out of it. I kind of became the quote unquote clown of the school, and that got me into you know, gangs, and not gangs in a pejorative way, but
Mm-hmm.
I at least got friends out of this, and they all thought I was funny and cool. So they kind of forgot that, you know, what I was looking like and what I
But
was struggling with. So I kind of hide behind humor, as I still am sometimes today.
but what age was that? When did you make that little switch?
I'd say it'd be my third level of high school was
Mm.
probably the turning point. So 1981, I was about 14. After my first 2 years of high school, really, I thought were tough.
Rough.
I was really wondering if I was fitting in anywhere, and I never had like deep dark thoughts. I'm not going down that route because
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
never
yeah.
went down that route. But no, not a lot of friends. But yeah, at the age of 14, I kind of turned it around, and I think it was good for me, and it
It
kind of
was.
forced me to make my way.
That's interesting that you put it that way, huh? That it was a good thing. You turned
No,
something
no,
into.
it was a good thing. It was tough, but it was a good thing, and actually, it's all turned out for the better. It led me to theater,
Oh,
which was an
really?
early passion of my life. Yeah, I even considered the career of an actor. Was even told by a couple of people that I could be successful at it. But I knew myself well enough, even when I was young,
Mm-hmm.
to know that I was not the kind of person that could sit and wait by the phone, hoping for it to
Mm-hmm.
ring so that somebody would offer me a role. I need too much. I don't like uncertainty, and I need the paycheck to come in every second week. And this is not that kind of a career. So I knew myself well enough to know that I would not. I would get really nervous doing that.
That's interesting. I didn't think of you as the actor type that you would in theater because you chose economics. You know,
Yes.
it's like it's two different type of field.
It's funny because I really had two things going for me
Mm-hmm.
when I was younger. I was not really good at everything in school, no way.
Mm-hmm.
My history prof, my geo prof, and chemistry prof would all tell you that I was not the best of students. But my math prof would tell you,
Ah,
gosh, that guy was great. Like he was good at math, and
yeah.
I had a good run at math. I was enjoying it,
Mm-hmm.
and there was also this humorous part of me that was unfolding and that was coming out. And so when I got into theater, I really, really liked it. So these two things were kind of leading me in very different direction.
Yeah.
One of them taking me to quote unquote the stage, and the other one took me to economics because at one point I heard that there was a lot of math in economics.
Oh, yeah.
So and I was fascinated by things like what does it mean when interest rates increase? What does it mean when the exchange rate depreciate? And why are people buzzing about these things? And so I was really intrigued by economic questions. And so, yeah, when I realized that the career as an actor was not made for
Mm-hmm.
me, not that I pretend that I would have been so successful. No way. If there's something I do have, is modesty. Um, but when I realized that that was not for me, the other route was economics.
When did you decide, okay, I don't think theater is going to do it for me? And at what age was that about? Before
I did
college?
a lot of theater during my college year, which
Mm.
in Quebec we called cégep.
Wow.
During my 2 years of cégep, even joined a small group of amateurs, and we did some good plays. It was fun. I had a blast during these years. Um, but then I'm a math guy.
Yeah.
Uh, then I saw an article, can't recall where. I was about 18. I was actually
Okay.
entertaining the thought, like, do I go from Cégep to l'École nationale de théâtre,
Mm-hmm.
or from Cégep to university? And so I was really at the crossroad. And then I come across an article saying that in the phone book of the Quebec Artists Union Association, les
Mm-hmm.
artistes du Québec,
Wow.
there were something like 50,000 names,
Mm-hmm.
but only 800 were making a living of it.
Wow.
And I kind of went, okay, hold on, and what makes you think that you're going to be like the 801? Like, and I got all jittery and agitated, and I went, there are tons of great actors who are struggling. Who am I to believe that I'm just going to go and it's going to be the easy road? And it got me really agitated, and I went, no, I'm not going down that route. Too much uncertainty, and as I said, my tolerance to risk is really, really low.
Yeah.
And no, that was when the decision was made to try and go for a more traditional career.
Additional. That was very interesting. That was very interesting. And today, but tell us about today. What do you do exactly? I know you're involved in different corporations. There's the CRE, and then carry on. Tell us what you do.
Well, actually, the career took me through all sorts of different organizations, but I've learned so much through all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Had the amazing luxury, and I really mean that,
Mm-hmm.
of starting my career as an economist at the Bank of Canada, which, to use a sport analogy, is the National Hockey League for economists. And I was fortunate because I came out of university in 1991. For those viewers my age, you'll recall that the early 90s were really tough years, economically speaking,
Okay.
and finding a first job was a struggle. So to be recruited by the bank was amazing. So I don't have a PhD in economics, but I sometimes like to say
Mm-hmm.
that my first 7 years, which were spent at the bank, was almost that.
Okay.
Without anyone with a PhD taking offense in what I'm saying, but gosh, I learned a lot. I
Yeah.
really decided during my tenure at the bank to just sit down, watch, and learn, and
Mm-hmm.
I had amazing colleagues. And I don't want to look like I'm playing the name game here, but I work with amazing people. Don Coletti, who's now an advisor to the governor, Stephen Polas, who was the governor until recently, is someone I had the opportunity to work with when I was really young, and Tiff Macklem, who's the new governor. I also had the chance to work and talk to, and I would listen to these people because I
Mm-hmm.
knew the tremendous value of what they were bringing to me. And then I went on to the Conference Board of Canada, because they had this international project, and I was 30 years old at the time, and the 30-year-old little boy has never been any further than New York. And I thought that was wrong. I cannot be 30, and the farthest I've ever been is New York City. And they had this project where they needed an economist to help them work with ministries of finance in Tunisia and Morocco and Ukraine. So up I went,
Mm-hmm.
crossed the ocean some 50 times in 3 years, working in Tunisia, Morocco, and Ukraine. It was fabulous. I learned so
Yeah.
much, Kathy. Like, um, there sometimes people think that when you work on international projects like that, you go and you teach them stuff. I don't have that pretension. I think I've learned way more from them than they did from me. It was extraordinary, and it really opened uh, my mind on so many different things that I've never seen before. And I still have friends, and I still email to some of them, be it in Ukraine, Tunisia, and Morocco. It's amazing. And then I was at the conference board for 16 years, and then I eventually jumped into the real estate industry
Yeah.
after giving a lot of speeches as an economist to many real estate forums.
Okay.
Uh, I got to meet some people, and then the call came from Ivanhoe Cambridge 4.5 years ago. I acted as if I was negotiating, but it took 10 seconds for my mind to be made up. Uh, and I'm having the time of my life.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic organization. When you think about it, invested across the planet.
Yeah.
We're invested, yes, of course, in Canada and the United States,
Mm-hmm.
but in Latin America, in Europe, in Asia. It's a job that took me to Shanghai, Singapore, Australia, and across Europe. It's just awesome.
Amazing.
And I'm the market guy. I've got the best of all jobs in that they turn to me for advice. They listen to me or they don't. I don't take these things personally. And I tried to provide the best advice I can in terms of which market we should enter,
Mm-hmm.
when and in what way and in what asset class. So it's really fun.
But how do you come up with that? How do you know which market they should go in? How do you come up about to
I've
make those
got a
decisions?
phenomenal team, Kathy, which
Mm-hmm.
makes me look half smart. They're tremendous,
Mm-hmm.
all of them, because you're right. And I remember presenting some of our work that we do in the research team of Ivanhoe Cambridge, and I remember presenting it to some organization, and some people would turn to me and say, "How many of you are there to produce that kind of work?" And I'd say four,
Oh,
and they'd look at
really?
me and they say, "You can't be just four," and we are.
Ah.
But these guys are amazing, and they're the reason why, as I said, I look and
Mm-hmm.
sound half smart. They're great people. Now we're six.
Okay.
When I first inherited the team in 2016, there were four of us. Now we're six of us. I think research has certainly planted a seed inside Ivanhoe Cambridge. Not that it didn't before, but we do a lot of stuff, and it's amazing that the planet's my playground. And it's just, but it's a lot of reading. I've always read a lot.
Okay.
I'm an avid reader when it comes to economic stuff, and it's funny because, of course, my kids would read Harry Potter and other kinds of book, and they would see me read economics even on holidays, and they'd say, "Gosh, Dad, like you never stop working. You should stop working." and I keep on telling them I'm not working.
Yeah.
You read Harry Potter because you like it. I
Yeah.
read this most recent economic book because I like it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you read what you like, I read what I like. I'm not working. And there are so many times, Kathy, when this is exactly how I feel,
Mm-hmm.
in that I'm not working. And I've had, gosh, I'm gonna now almost say my age, but I'm going to be celebrating a 30-year career soon. Can't
Yeah.
believe 30 years. Where did that time go? Um, and I really feel like I've not worked. I've been fortunate to have amazing jobs in
Mm-hmm.
which I always had a lot of fun. I try
Mm-hmm.
to make it a fun environment now that I manage teams, and I've been managing teams since 2000. And I take a great pride at trying to make a fun work environment. Yes,
Yeah.
we work hard, but when you work hard, uh, but it seems painless, I think you do way more than
Yes.
you think.
Yeah.
So I'm not one to put stress. I'm incredibly pleased about something, which I'll share.
Mm-hmm.
At one point in time, people realized when I was at the Conference Board of Canada that for, what was it? I think it was 8 years and a few months that I've had the exact same team working for me for all that time.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me was amazingly revealing that, hey, I guess I'm not that bad of a boss, you know. So, because obviously they would have left, have I
Yeah.
been. But we were fortunate because the work was so interesting. So it's not because of me that they stayed. The work was incredibly interesting. But to have the same team for something like 8 years,
Yes.
to this day, I still consider one of my main accomplishment. So you see, sometimes it's not about work and output. It's about relationships, and I
Mm-hmm.
strongly believe in that. And I was telling you earlier how I'm happy to still have friends I email to in Ukraine, Tunisia, and
Yeah.
Morocco, and to me, it's all about that. And I've always said to people, you know, if ever I leave a company, whenever I leave a company, the last thing I want to hear is something like, "Oh gosh, Mario was a good worker. Mario was a good worker." I don't want to hear that. I want to hear that Mario was fun to be around. That Mario was, someone who would have a good time with. But don't tell me I was a good worker. I don't want to be remembered as a good worker. So
That's funny.
it's really, it's personal relationships to me that matters most.
So that's one of your main core value that you bring into the workplace. Build good relationships and have a good team.
Absolutely. Because I mean, and I've never shied away from having people in the team that were quote unquote stronger than me.
Mm-hmm.
I've got no problem with that because, hey, I'm going to benefit from that.
Yeah.
So they're going to come in. And as I said earlier, I've already used that phrase a couple of times, and sorry for viewers for being so repetitive, but if they can make me look half smart, I'm going to be very happy. So no, it's not something that petrifies me. Quite
Mm-hmm.
the opposite. I've always taken a lot of pride in the people I've hired over the years, and seeing some of them becoming incredibly successful today. Some of them having great jobs today,
Mm-hmm.
and great. I've got no, I don't think I have any jealousy about people
Yeah.
making it big, people making it to the top here and to the top there, and oh my gosh, I did not make it to the top. I'm really happy of where I'm at. It's I've been fortunate, blessed along the way, and hey, I'm 53. Oops,
Mm-hmm.
too late. I said
Oh,
it.
oh, uh-uh.
Um, and I'm still having a good time, and
Yeah,
I'm
that,
still learning a lot. And I recall when I entered when I joined Ivanhoe, I remember telling people it's kind of rare that when you're about to turn 50, that your learning curve goes like that. You know,
Okay.
I'm not saying you're supposed to plateau and not learn anything when you're 50. That's not what
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
saying,
yeah.
but it's rare that at
Mm-hmm.
50 your learning curve kind of take a steep bounce upward, and it's been my case. And that's what I look for. I constantly want to learn, and for as long as I'm going to have that drive and that energy, you know, some people, because of my age, I guess, are starting to ask me, you know, when do you think you're going to stop? Are you going all the way to 65? Or are you? I mean, you started, you were 22, so maybe you'll think about stopping earlier than that. And my answer has always been the same. For as long as I'm going to have fun,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be here. And right now, I'm still having a blast.
And that's great. So it was a good thing that you switched a field in 2014, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
no, it was a good thing. I did try something else along the way, which was to run the Quebec Urban Development Institute, which was a great experience because it got me, it really increased the number of people I knew into the
Mm-hmm.
field of commercial real estate. I can't find a word réseau in English all of a sudden, but
Network, yes.
my network increased tremendously when I
Ah,
joined the institute. And I wanted to do something else than writing economic reports every month,
yeah.
like I've been doing at the conference board for years. So
Mm-hmm.
I thought I'd try something else. But you know what, Kathy? The bizarre thing is, I miss being an economist
Oh,
when I
you
was in that
do?
role, and I missed it so much that I gathered a group of friends. I had the luxury of running the public policy committee of the Quebec Economic Association at the time, and I convinced these guys to put together a little book, which I'm really proud of,
Yes.
which was a book about what should we do moving forward to maximize the economic potential of the province of Quebec. And it was a fun experience. I thoroughly enjoyed it, but it was me trying to be an economist in a role where my economist background
Yeah.
was not really put to use, which is okay. Uh, but when I joined Ivanhoe Cambridge, I had the luck of becoming an economist again, and thoroughly enjoying it.
Turned out great. But we will talk about your book later on in this interview. One thing I want to ask you is that considering now you're managing like a lot of, you've been hiring people for many years now. Would you say, how do you choose your right candidate? Do you only base your decision on their resume and their skills, or is there something else you look in particular, their attitude?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure I'm going to score a lot of points on that one, but
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you my little recipe.
Yeah, go ahead. I like the
And
word.
I always look across the table because more
Mm-hmm.
often than not, that's how the setup is. And I say, do I want to have a beer with this person? And that, and in all honesty, Kathy, it is one of the box I gotta check.
Mm-hmm.
Do I want to have a beer with this person?
Mm-hmm.
So because more often than not, you know, I've always been backed up or supported, I should say, by amazing HR departments. So they
Mm-hmm.
already do a great job at making sure that the resumes that come to me
They're
are
great.
aligned in terms of what I was looking for and the
Mm-hmm.
background and the education and the experience. So it's all kind of there. And usually I will interview a short list. I'll
Mm-hmm.
be a job opening, and then HR would receive. And I'm always like fortunate because every time I've looked for people, I would receive a lot of resumes, and they'd receive 50 and 70 and sometimes 100,
Yeah.
and then there'd be 10 coming my way. And
Mm-hmm.
and and I know that from this first screening along, all the questions of education and experience and all these boxes are checked already.
Mm-hmm.
So it's rare that I will sit down with someone and start challenging their knowledge, and say, okay, you say you're an economist, so let me test you. What does it mean when the exchange rate depreciates? I don't go there because I kind of take these things for granted. They've
Mm-hmm.
worked as an economist X amount of years. They have a master's degree in economics. I'm not going to test whether they know these things. But I will ask questions that are debatable,
Mm-hmm.
uh, for which there's no clear answer,
Okay.
because I want to hear them think.
Yes.
And I always tell them, there is no answer to the question I'm going to ask you. There is no answer. So don't think of it as, okay, what does E want to hear? No, I don't want to hear anything. I want to hear you think. And I want to hear
Yeah.
you think out loud. How would you process that? How
Mm-hmm.
would you go from, like right now, if I was to interview somebody, I would probably ask something like, okay, we're going through COVID. What do you think COVID will mean for the office market moving forward?
Mm-hmm.
Trust me, Kathy, there's 1,000 answers to that
Yeah.
currently, because nobody really knows. So it's all over the place. So I would ask that. But
Mm-hmm.
again, just to hear the train of thought, how the person process a problem, because I know there's no answer, but I
Yeah.
just want to hear, and that to me says a lot about the person, and I insist, the personality.
Mm-hmm.
Did I have fun during this interview?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry, and I know maybe some HR people will listen to this, and I hope I'm not going to get sued for saying that. But um, to me, if I go and do an interview, and I'm an energetic person, I think you figured that one out.
Mm-hmm.
But and all I get as answers is sorry, things like, well, you know, on the one hand, maybe, uh, uh, no,
Even if the person is boring, basically.
it's not going to happen. I'm sorry, it's not going to happen. The
Oh my
person may
God.
be the smartest there is, but no, I need to feel the drive. I need to feel the
Yes.
energy. I need to
Yes.
feel, and I also need to feel the desire to
Yeah.
come and work, be it at the Conference Board of Canada at the time
Mm-hmm.
or now at Ivanhoe Cambridge. I need to feel that. And these are things that candidate, because I know sometimes we say, hey, you only have an hour to make up your mind with this candidate, and it's not
Okay.
a long time, and it's true, it's not a long time,
Mm-hmm.
but the passion, the energy, the desire, in an hour you can make it come out.
Yes.
You
Yes.
can make it come out, and you can sense it, and you can feel it, and people can't lie about this.
Yeah.
You can't pretend to have an energy that you don't. And I'm not asking the question, are you energetic? Because of course you can say yes to that, and then you think that that box is checked. No, 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 it's not. You don't ask that, but it's
Yeah.
something that you sense, something you feel,
Yes, I understand.
and I go a lot with feelings, emotion.
Mm-hmm.
It has driven a lot of my life, and I trust
Mm-hmm.
my judgment, and so far, touch wood, it serves me well.
Yeah, because I understand your point of view is that there are certain things you cannot teach somebody else. It's not transferable. You cannot give them that passion for
Yep.
the job beforehand or that drive. And also I realize that you don't want somebody that you're just going to give order to and then they're just going to, execute on what you say. You want somebody that says, oh, hey, Mario, did you think about this? What about if we do
Mm.
this that way? What are your thoughts? Somebody like that.
Actually, it's great that you bring that up, because now that we're becoming great friends, I will even share secrets with you.
Ah, go ahead.
But I remember on a few occasions in my life,
Mm-hmm.
in conducting the annual exercise of performance reviews, uh, telling an employee that, you know, I want you to take whatever I tell you and take it deeper. But what I see of you is that every time I give you a project, you go and do exactly what I told you, and period. And the person will look at me and say, well, that's supposed to be positive. Well, it is. It is. Don't get me wrong. It's not all negative, but I want you to
Yeah.
push it, because when I give you the project, more often than not, I did
Mm-hmm.
not give it that much thought. I just
Yeah.
received it myself, looked at it, kind of gave myself a bit of an angle on it, and then I'd sit down with the employee and say, okay, here's my take, but I got it the night before from the president, or somebody else, and so it's not as if I thought about it a whole month.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm expecting the person that will work on it to take it deeper,
Yeah.
because he or she will read on the topic and make phone calls to expert on the matter, and
Yeah.
so I'm expecting them to go deeper than whatever I'm going to say. So yeah, and that to me is incredibly important. And I've been fortunate on that, and that most of the people that I've had the opportunity to work with were curious people, people that would take problems, but go much deeper than whatever I would say to them when I would hand the project over to them.
That's great. But do you tell them that beforehand? This is what I expect of you, or
Oh,
do you?
absolutely,
Okay, good. All right.
absolutely.
Okay.
I think people that I've worked. I don't
Mm-hmm.
like that expression, working for me, but I've worked with
With
me.
yeah.
Would say that I'm quite. I do encourage participation
Mm-hmm.
by team members, and there are times where actually, you know, I'll get something to work on from a superior, and I will not even think of it myself. I'm known for improvising
Mm-hmm.
brainstorming session where I would bring the entire team into my office, and everybody would crunch in my office, and I have the whiteboard going, and away we go, and how would you do this, and how would you
Yeah.
think of that, and then at the end we go, okay, who wants to take that, and then somebody takes it, and we're done.
That's
So
good.
no, I really turn, because hey, I've hired these people. I trusted their judgment, and they're good, and they've proven
Mm-hmm.
to me time and again that they're good. So I'm not going to pretend that I have all the answers.
That was a lot of secrets there, Mario. So there you have it, listeners. If you want to work or you're looking for a good job, these are the things that you have to bring into the table. All right, now let's move on to something that maybe, I don't know if you talk about this a lot, or maybe I find that some other people, they try to keep their failures or challenges close to themselves and not share that to people. But I find that a lot of the time is a way for us as humans to connect with one another, to say, I was there before where you are now, but there's hope. It's not hopeless. This is where I was, this is who I become today. So there's a way for you to get there too. Don't lose hope. What's your take on that? Like, tell me a bit.
Well, to me, it happened really, really early in life.
Mm-hmm.
Because, as I said, I started working when I was 22, and
Yeah.
been amazingly fortunate ever since. But um, it has not always been what it is.
Mm-hmm.
I remember getting out of university. My parents could not support me financially.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I lost my dad when I was 16. So mom could not support me financially
Mm-hmm.
when I went to university, and still decided to go. So went to university 4 years, came out of there indebted $14,000, and folks
That.
were talking $1990. $14,000 was a lot of money.
Yeah.
To put it in perspective, my first job was paying me $33,000
Mm-hmm.
when I got the job at the Bank of Canada. So almost half my salary in debt to start my life. I remember a time, no kidding, where I could not go to the dentist even if my teeth were killing me because I had something like $11 in the bank.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and credit card has run its course. I remember leaving my first car parked because I could not put gasoline in it. And actually, that first car was a stupid mistake. Kids, don't do that. I so wanted a car. Gosh, I was stupidly wanting a car. I got to tell my car story. Sorry, Kathy.
Oh, go
But
ahead.
here I was. I was actually working, and see, early in life, I chose a work that I liked, and I was a referee in both baseball and hockey, and I managed to put aside $3,000 over the course of 3 years, can't recall. And then I finally found a car that I wanted, and the price was 3,000. Stupid me. Didn't think about insurance, didn't think about anything. So I bought the car. I had no money left whatsoever. Fortunately enough, the insurance company agreed that I would not pay the full insurance in one shot, but on a
Mm-hmm.
per month basis. And they were willing to leave me 1 month off, and I could start paying the second month. Anyway, long story short, I had no money left,
Mm-hmm.
nothing. So, yeah, um, without wanting to bring anyone to tears, it has not always been what it
Easy.
is. There were some really, really tough time, but I don't know, something kept me going.
Okay.
I was firmly believing that these studies, this education would pay off somehow. And mind you, I was ready to do anything. When I graduated with my master's degree in economics, I remember hopping on a bus from Longueuil on my way to the Rouyn-Noranda Cégep
Mm-hmm.
overnight for to interview for a job as prof at the Cégep at the time. And I almost took the job. The only thing is that they would not guarantee me more than 6 month work. So I was
Okay.
not going to move to Abitibi for just 6 months of guaranteed work. So, but I was ready to do anything. I had the motivation to drive and the passion, and I never stopped believing. And I guess the fundamental message behind all of this is
Mm-hmm.
exactly that. Never stop believing. There are bright days after the rain, and in my case, it's been a 30-year sunshine,
Mm-hmm.
which is rare. But there are not many days, Kathy, that go by without me being appreciative of what I got, and knowing full well that I'm fortunate.
Back then, you said you never gave up and you always had that drive to continue. Do you feel that uh, many people say you have to know your why because your why is what's going to push you when you want to give up? That's going to make you wake up in the morning and says, I have to continue. You actually have to know why you're doing this, all making all those sacrifices. Did you have that?
Well, what I knew was that, and my two brothers,
Mm-hmm.
if ever they listen to this, they're gonna have a good laugh on that one. I knew I was clumsy with my hands, and I could not do any manual work. I knew that. I've always known that. And so, to me, it was unquestionable
Mm-hmm.
that I had to keep pushing, because if this education would not turn out to be what I was hoping it would be, that then I may have to go the route of working in a factory, and I knew I'd be clumsy at it, and so I don't know. I just felt, and plus, trust me, when I heard the bank telling me after I graduated from my master's degree that I only had 6 months of relief from paying down my student loan
Mm-hmm.
before they started
Knocking on your door.
tracking me down for the payment. Uh, Trust me, I knew that it was $14,000. I recall that perfectly, spread over 10 year at a stupid interest rate. But anyway, to make a long story short, it was something $150 a month, which
Mm-hmm.
I totally did not have.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so I guess I found my motivation there. I kind of went like, okay, starting in 6 months, I'm going to have a monthly payment of 150 for 10 years. I got to be ready for it. I got to find a way to pay this down. And so I guess being to some extent financially stressed contributed to my
yeah.
motivation of saying you can't give up, man. You just can't. And I had one suit in my closet at the time, and gosh, by the time I was done with it, it was worn out because I was wearing it at every interview that I had, and carrying it everywhere. So it's funny because I reflect back on this now 30 years later,
Mm-hmm.
and every time, including with you today, that I refer to that period, I refer to it with a smile. But gosh, you have to know that I was not smiling back then,
Oh
like not
yeah,
at
oh
all.
yeah,
Like I was stressed, as like I was as stressed as can be.
yeah.
But it's funny how things change over the years, and what you saw or felt or lived as stressful 30 years
Mm-hmm.
ago, you think about it now, and I talk about that story always with a smile on. And so yeah, I just could not give up. I just could not quit, and I continued, and until I got the call of all call. Some people sometimes ask me, if you were to say one of the best period in your life, and this one's going to be particular, but graduated with my master's degree from the University of Montreal, December 1990. Got the call from the Bank of Canada after being interviewed by them. What was it, February or March? Got the call by the Bank of Canada something like May 2nd. I'm actually pretty sure
Wow.
it's May 2nd, but anyway, uh, early May, when they told me I had a job starting July 2, uh, those were two of the best months of my life
I
because
bet.
I could finally relax. Now,
Yeah.
I still had no money,
Yes.
but I had 2 months and counting down the 2 months until I was finally going to make. But it was not really money. I quite honestly, Kathy, and I should not say that because if anyone from the bank is listening to this, uh, I think I would have gone for any salary. Uh,
Yeah.
it was the Bank of Canada. And I started the interview by saying that for an economist, Bank of Canada is the National League for a hockey player. And, I was just so happy to go. So being paid on top of it was a bonus. Well, of course, you got to pay the bills, but
Mm-hmm.
no, these were an amazing 2 months. I was grinning for 2 months, relaxed
Yeah.
for 2 months, just waiting for it to begin. It did imply a move to Ottawa, though, because I was
Okay.
in Montreal then. But no, these are two of the good months of my life where I was incredibly relaxed, watching soap operas in the afternoon with a smile on, and it was cool.
Well, that's good then. Actually, so those challenges kind of helped you maybe today to be more appreciative and kind of understand, the struggles when you don't have a plan B, what that entails. It's pretty good. I agree with you. It was a good experience because now you can look back and laugh about
Oh
it.
yeah, I do. I do recall those times, and as I said, it makes me appreciate what I got today.
But at the bank, you stayed there, you said, for about 10
7
years or
years.
7 years? Okay. Did
7
you
years.
find a mentor in there? Did somebody help you?
They were
What
all
the.
mentors to me,
Mm-hmm.
but I've named three, and I'll name them again. Don Coletti, who on top of being a mentor, became a very, very good friend.
Mm-hmm.
We don't see each other a lot, but whenever we do, it's kind of as if we've seen each other yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
There's an incredibly special bond. Don welcomed me to Ottawa. He's really helped me. Gosh, I thought I was bilingual. When I got to the bank, I was so not, Kathy. You have no idea.
Your English.
And Don was really patient with my English, taught me a lot of it, and met other fellows who took me under their wings. Steve Polas, Tiff Macklem. Uh, there were amazing people all around. My first boss, Richard Dion, my very first boss at the bank. Richard has been so helpful. Here's another guy who was very patient with me.
Yeah.
Taught me a lot of things. It's funny. I was actually telling friends not so long ago how, to me, Richard Dion is still a very important piece of my life because
Mm-hmm.
it was early 1990s, as I said. There were not a lot of job openings at the bank that year, and in fact, if I'm not mistaken, there was just one.
Wow.
And I was fortunate that it was Richard looking for somebody. And when I did the interview with Richard, we connected
Okay.
so nicely. I felt it. I was talking to you about feelings and kind
Yes,
of
yes,
felt there
yes,
was a
yes.
connection.
Yeah.
So I was not doubting the connection. I was more,
Mm-hmm.
still wondering afterwards, do I have the knowledge to work at La Banque du Canada? But then the phone rang and everything went well. But Richard Dion, to this day, is still a guy I think of as the person that offered me my very first chance in life, and I will never forget that.
But did you feel like you had to prove yourself beforehand, or it just
No, not
happened?
really. The bank is not like that
No?
with their young new kids
Okay.
on the block. Uh, they're really patient
Okay.
with their young economists. They're giving them time to learn the ropes, and you're not under pressure to start
Okay.
delivering on stuff like the morning after. The bank knows that there are things you must learn, and so no, I'll tell you,
Okay.
it was an amazing 7 years, and I left for the reasons I mentioned earlier. That at one point realized I'd never been further than New
Yes.
York.
Yeah.
And then when I had this job interview with the conference board, who were looking for a guy to travel the world, and I kind of went, I got to do that. I got to do that. And so I left, and it's been great. I mean, conference board was wonderful. I was there 16 years.
Yeah.
So if I was going to say that I hated it, you could quickly look at me and say, "Gosh, you're stupid, man, because you stayed there 16 years. So if you hated it,
Yeah.
but no, but it was a very different experience, but another good one.
But in other corporations, maybe could that be a way? Like you have to prove yourself first before you actually find somebody that say, "Oh, you know what? Maybe this person has potential. Maybe we can, mentor." Or I don't know how it works.
Well, I think what you've got to do,
Mm-hmm.
well, it sounds pretty directive. I'm sorry, but I've always liked an approach of somebody coming in, and I actually have concrete example in my team right now
Mm-hmm.
of young guys that came on board fairly young. One of them is actually starting his career with us now at Ivanhoe Cambridge.
Mm-hmm.
And I like when you have a curious attitude. You don't come in and say, okay, I got to prove that, I got to do stuff. But the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of show that, no, I'm willing to learn. I want to learn. I know I
Mm-hmm.
got to learn. Because you cannot come into a job, and particularly when you're 22 or
Yeah.
23, and
Yeah.
say, "Oh, I'll show you some stuff. Look at me, man. I'll show you stuff." No,
Yeah.
I think the attitude of showing you want to learn, being open to learning, and taking it slow.
Mm-hmm.
And because it's tough, the transition from school to work, it's not an easy one.
Yeah.
And you can't just come into a job and say, you know what, because I've got this master's degree in economics, I'll teach you stuff you've never seen before. No, it doesn't quite fly that way. So be open to learning. Um, and yes, at one point you'll see that naturally you'll start contributing
Mm-hmm.
because you'll be involved. And so and I like to involve my young kids. I like to involve them because they will have different ideas.
Yeah.
And not only that, I think that the fact that you can have on your team someone that has just left the university, they may have learned some new techniques.
Yeah.
In economics, we use something that we call econometrics, where we try and put relationships. If this increase, what does it do to that variable? Okay, it
Mm-hmm.
increases as well, and correlations and causalities. And but you know, my econometrics is getting a little rustier on a daily basis. So to have a new kid coming in
Yeah.
who's
Yeah.
just been through
Yeah.
econometrics in university, and sometimes it can be humbling to
Yes.
to
Can help.
realize that the latest techniques, you don't really know them even by name. So no, I think it's good to have a team that can bring different things to the table. I'm trying to stay away from having a team that can all do the same things.
Okay.
I think you need different people, a different set of skills. Yes, you need the outspoken person. You also need the the person that is better in his or her office, just thinking and working away and reading literature. And so you need them all.
You need
And
them all.
it's the mix that I remember a few years ago, Richard Florida came in and started saying, to be successful, cities need to attract artists and gays and PhDs. And without refuting this theory, what I'm saying is that
Mm-hmm.
I think cities need it all. Uh, you need the plumber, the electrician.
Yes.
You still need them all.
Mm-hmm.
And focusing on just attracting a certain set of skills can be risky business. At the end, what you want is for your city to be welcoming to the broadest range of people. But for as long as you give them a community in which they feel safe and they can work freely and share the ideas freely, that I think will be the biggest benefit that you can get.
Very good perspective. But it's funny, like earlier, before during the conversation, you said some people that you worked with in the past, they moved on to other corporation, and some of them succeed very well and things like that. I want to tell you what I was listening to somebody the other day. Her name is Carla Harris. Okay, she used to work for decades for Goldman Sachs, Wall Street in the States. And then she said that often in the workplace, it's often presented as a meritocracy, where most people believe like you should just put your head down and do the hard work, and somebody will notice, and maybe you'll get a promotion one day. But she doesn't believe in that. She says that it's best if you find somebody to sponsor you, not a mentor, but a sponsor, somebody who, when they go behind closed door trying to find who they're going to promote next, this person will say, oh, so and so, yes, 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 he or she, they do a good work, and then vouch on your behalf. Is that something that you believe that this is how it is, let's say in Montreal, a different corporation that you've seen?
I'm not sure I'm going to answer this in a satisfactory way, but
Mm-hmm.
since I've given you great answers all the
Yeah.
way through, I'm allowing myself maybe that wrong one.
Mm-hmm. It's
But
okay.
but to me, to me, a career path
Mm-hmm.
is not something that you try to preset.
Mm-hmm.
I've never tried to preset anything. Um, by trying to associate myself with him or her, and hoping that if they move on, they'll move me on. And I've never planted seed in that way.
Okay.
I've always uh, as I said earlier, I trust my judgment, and I've always tried to be around those from who I can learn a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always been, I think, again, touch wood, pretty good at identifying those from who I can learn a lot.
Yeah.
And if this learning, and very likely it did, but if this learning propels you to the next level, and in my case, it very likely did, good.
Yeah.
But it's never been a plan. It's never
Mm-hmm.
been about, hey, you know what? I'm going to walk right by Stephen Polos my entire time at the bank, and I know that he's a horse I can bet on, and he's going to climb the ladder, and he's going to climb me with him. No, I don't plan these things. I don't have no strategy. As I said, I feel fortunate that I am where I am. I don't consider myself anywhere near the top. If you want to talk to me about top people, you talk to me about our current CEO at Ivanhoe Cambridge, Nathalie Paraditchev, or our current chief of investment, Sylvain Fortier, or you talk to me about Tiff Macklem, the new governor of the Bank of Canada. These are people that are at the top.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm nowhere near that. And I'm not saying that out of envy or jealousy, but
Yeah.
no, I like where I am. I'm really proud where I am,
Mm-hmm.
but I've never planned anything. My plan has always been trying to learn as much as I can, but and again, at the risk of repeating myself, trying to have the most fun that I can.
Mm-hmm.
And if I can do that,
Yeah, that's good.
I'm gonna win. And I look at where I stand today. I look at where I am today, and I feel like I've won the lottery. And that's how life has been. And I'm just hoping that it will continue that way.
Yeah, yeah. I actually like your answer. It's a very good twist on that. It's good. Some people
Good.
will actually benefit from that. All right, we reach a point where we're going to address COVID-19, the crisis that everybody's been talking about. Tell us a little bit about how has it affect the industry, the real estate industry, nationally, and let a little bit in closer to home, Montreal.
Well, it's certainly something that took everyone by surprise.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be modest in life, and there are times where I still wonder why Ivanhoe Cambridge is so patient with me, because I first arrived in 2016, and when the Brexit vote occurred on June 23, 2016, they turned to me and say, Mario, I said, no way, Jose, that's never going to happen. And oops, it did. Then came the U.S. election, and they said, Mario, can Donald Trump really win this thing? I said, no way, it's not going to happen. He won. And I think it was in January where we had a meeting, and people turned to me again and said, Mario, what about this coronavirus thing in China? So, don't worry about it. It's a China thing, and we won't talk about it at the next meeting. Oof, talk about being wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, nobody really saw that one coming.
No.
What I'm trying to do in the middle of all of this is
Mm-hmm.
separate the temporary from the permanent.
Okay.
That to me is the best job I can do for Ivanhoe Cambridge right now, is to try and separate what will be temporary from what will be permanent. Um, True enough, right now, you have a lot of people doing teleworking, a good chunk of the population. But what I keep on saying is that it's easy to do teleworking when everybody else is doing it.
Yes.
Imagine you're a participant in a 20 people meeting and the
Mhm.
other 19 are clustered in a room at the office. You're the only one taking the call from work.
Yeah.
It's not the same dynamic. It
No.
is not at all the same dynamic.
Mhm.
So all of this to say that before, saying that that's it, over, no more need for office towers, everybody's going to telework. I'm not willing to go that far. Will there be an increase in teleworking? Yes,
Mhm.
but it has already started. At Ivanhoe Cambridge, for example, we had a policy by which every employee had the right to work 1 day a week from home before
Okay.
COVID.
Mhm.
Will this become two after COVID? I don't know. I don't want to get into speculation. But before you throw everything down the tube,
Mhm.
with respect to office, be careful. So, yeah, on the one hand, you might have a bit more teleworking, but on the other hand, you may need more space between desks. So, okay, you'll have more people teleworking, but then you need more office space for each desk. And in the end, what's the net? How will it play out ultimately?
Mhm.
Remains to be seen. But we're looking at this very closely. Um, Gosh, we have so much people who are on top of these things at Ivanhoe Cambridge. It's amazing. Uh, and yes, retail. Retail, everybody's saying, well, retail, of course, now our shopping malls are closed. So, of course, it
Yeah.
doesn't look that great. But then they'll reopen.
Yeah.
And then, you might have people like me who have missed going out tremendously, who may be going out as soon as they'll feel safe about it. Now, when will that be? I don't know.
Mhm.
So, yeah, you hear all sorts of things about, oh, yeah, but now there are people that have never done e commerce before in their life who are now doing it. Maybe they will keep doing it after. Maybe. But maybe not.
Mhm.
I don't know. We are human beings. I think we need this social connection.
Yes.
So what I keep on saying is, yes, it's okay to take that time to reflect. We must
Mhm.
reflect. Will there be permanent impact on shopping malls? Probably. To what extent? Not sure. But then you have industrial, which is the new asset class, or relatively new, who's the winner, if there can be anyone called the winner at the time of COVID,
Yes.
because e-commerce is increasing, so you need more warehousing, and so industrial is doing well. Uh, but what I keep on telling everybody is, yes, it's great to take the time to think, and let's do it. And trust me, we are at Ivanhoe Cambridge doing it. But at
Mhm.
the same time, let's not erase everything and start from scratch again.
Yes, of course.
Uh, because human beings are uh, people of habits. And I even read something, Kathy, the other day. I got to share this. I even read something the other day where people were saying, hey, kissing among friends is over. And I was kind of saying, you got to be kidding me. Like, no way. Like, there's just no way that this will happen. So, careful with going to the other extreme. Yes, take the time to reflect and think, and what can we do at that time? And again, try to separate the permanent from the temporary.
Mhm.
Um, the health industry is working incredibly hard on trying to find, be it medicine or a vaccine for COVID. When that happens, what I want to know, and I've got no answer for you, is how will people behave when it's going to be safe again? because I know it's hard to believe right now, but it will be safe again one day. Is
Yes.
that day in 3 months, in 6 months, in a year? I do not know,
Yeah.
but it's going to be safe again.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, the question that must be answered, and it is a tough one to answer, is how will people behave when it is safe again?
Why do you say it's tough?
Because the answer might be the same way. Uh, and then here we are going through all this turmoil of what are we changing and what are we adjusting, and then comes a vaccine and we're back to doing what we were doing.
Yeah.
Um, on the other hand, it may not. Maybe, as I said, the people that have got to know e-commerce and started to have fun with e-commerce will say, hey, you know what? I'm not going to go waste my time at the shopping mall anymore. These days are gone. I'm going to continue with my e-commerce.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Teleworking? Well, of course. I don't know of anyone that likes traffic jam. So could it increase to a day, a week, to two? But as I said, I think it's way too early to say that this means the end of office. Kathy, I was really, I was going to say involved. Involved is not appropriate, but I really suffered the impact of September 11, 2001,
Mm-hmm.
because that was right at the tick of the time when I was going to Ukraine, Tunisia, and Morocco
Yeah.
on a frequent basis. And when that happened, the question arises quickly, are we ever going to go back?
Yeah.
And if my memory serves me right, 2 months later, we were on a plane back overseas. Yes, the lineup at security was longer. Yes, we had to take off our shoes. We had to show our liquids, and this was all new stuff. But we were back on a plane 2 months later. So all of this to say, and I remember at the time, since we're talking real estate, I was not in the real estate world at the time, but I remember at the time there was a lot of mention about people saying, I will never work in a tower again in my life
Oh
after
yeah.
the event of September 11. Well, I'm sorry, that did not really happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's be careful.
Mm-hmm.
It's good to reflect. It's good to think. And actually, I think anyone doing any business whatsoever should always take a time to pause, think, can never take anything for granted. Never. Kathy, that's mistake number one. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
if you start thinking that since you're making good profits and the business going well, that you can sit on it and enjoy for the rest of your life, that is when you're going to be hit by a wave you've never even seen coming.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do that in any business. So no, you must take the time to reflect. And now COVID is creating an
That, yeah.
opportunity for that. Do it. Absolutely. Take the time, but be careful. Don't just go change everything for, because it's costly to change
Yeah. Yeah.
everything. You're
Yeah.
running a business. You have X amount of people working with you, and you can't start changing everything. But yeah, it certainly is a time for reflection.
But what are some tough decisions that you had to make with your team and the company lately due to
Well,
COVID-19 and for the retail, let's say, for the
in
tenants?
our case, we already had the intention of reducing a wee bit our retail presence. So, as I said earlier, it's not that COVID-19 brought really anything new.
No?
It just
Okay.
accelerated some trends,
Mm-hmm.
like the e-commerce, the telework. So it is just making us look at some of what we've planned over a certain amount of years. Are we going to accelerate a few things? But fundamentally, and my responsibility with Ivanhoe, as I said, is being the market guy.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, I remember telling people that you find some of the most attractive cities and prosperous cities in Asia nowadays, and there's a lot in Europe and the Nordics countries, and I haven't changed my story.
Mm.
COVID has not made me change my story. These markets that I thought were attractive still are.
Okay.
So that's what I mean when I say, be careful between the temporary, the permanent.
Yeah.
Keep looking for the trends, and you can't just say that because of COVID. Oh, you know what? We wanted to do maybe a little more in Asia. Forget that. No, it's over.
Yeah.
No, maybe the timing is altered,
Mm-hmm.
but the fundamental plan. And right now, I would lie to say that we're thinking about changing the entire strategy. We're not. We like the strategy that we had planned for, and you'll understand that I will not share it all with you
I know.
because this is going to be viewed by millions of people. But we're looking at our strategy.
Mm-hmm.
Are there tweaks and adjustments, changes in timing?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but fundamentally, we're still happy with where we were heading, and I, for one, as I said, being the market person and analyzing markets, not ready to say that this has completely sabotaged my story.
Okay, so this analogy can be applied to small business owners. Maybe they had some plans before COVID-19, not to just scratch everything and start,
No.
from zero, just to take a time to reflect, like you said, and maybe there could be some adjustments to be made. However, keep those plans in mind because the timing might be wrong now, but in the long term, it could still be a good idea.
Well, in theory, if you and you should have liked what you did last year in terms of strategic plan. Let's say you did a strategic planning session last year before COVID, and I'm sure that you like what you did and you
Mm-hmm.
came up with the plan. To me, COVID is not a reason to take the plan and say, you know what, give me a match. I will burn this down and we're going to write a brand new one from scratch. I don't think so.
Okay.
Is it a time to reread it and say, oh, oops, so okay, like we were thinking about doing this now, maybe not now, but it's still a good idea to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But the timing may be off, and so yeah, time to reflect. But
Yeah.
I, for one, would not change everything.
I think that's very good advice because a lot of them, maybe business owners, they might be like frightened, and this is a crisis. They don't know how to to adapt or move forward. So this is very good. I like that. All right, Mario, let's move on to your accomplishments. You can tell us a little bit more about the book that you wrote.
Well, I started by saying that I entertained the thought of becoming an actor, left that aside. Um, though I kind of feel like I was able to use some of these tools because I don't know, over the course of my career, I didn't count, but I must be really near something like 500 conferences
That's a
that
lot.
I've given. Yeah, but I've always had a blast doing that, and I still do. So I've kind of used that. Um, but there's this part of me that feels the need to write. I always have something on the go. So yeah, I wrote a book combining my two passion, which is professional sports and economics, with my dear friend Glenn Hudson,
Mm-hmm.
who was another one of the another one of the great guys I've had the opportunity to work with over the course of my life. And Glenn and I started, just having fun, writing a couple of things about could there be more professional hockey teams in Canada? Is the market large enough to have more hockey teams in Canada? And then these notes got attention from TSN, the Sport
Oh,
Network. I
really?
remember giving an interview to the Sport Network about this, and then we went on saying we could do it for baseball and for basketball and for football, and what makes a team successful and another
Mhm.
one not successful? Could we develop a framework? Uh, and I like thinking we did, and it was a fantastic experience. This book has led me to have an interview one day with Sports Illustrated.
Oh,
If there
really?
is one thing I never thought I would have done in my life, was an interview with Sports Illustrated. So no, that was really really fun, and Glenn and I worked nicely together. It was a great experience, and last I checked, we sold over 1,000 of them, which is half decent. But of course, you never do this for money,
No.
and that was not the intention.
Yeah.
And I'm still writing stuff here and there. I've got hidden poems in a drawer. I've got all sorts of crazy things. Will I ever publish all of that? I do not know. But I sleep very little, and I find a lot of peace in the house between 5 a.m. and 7 a.m., and that's usually the time at which I will either read or write. And yeah, no, I have a lot of fun doing that.
But I'm curious, what makes a great team? Why some succeed and some don't? Because it's the same with business. Some succeed and some don't.
Well, of course, the very first pillar was population. Even if you try to bring a professional hockey team to a town of 100,000 people,
Mm-hmm.
and these 100,000 people say, hey, we're all die-hard hockey fans, and yeah, we do want the team, we do want the team. You have to keep in mind that a professional hockey team plays 40 games at home in a year, and you need to fill in about
Yeah.
20,000 people. So you need 800,000 people to go to the rink every year to support the team and bring money to the team, because it is
Okay.
costly business to run. So yeah, you're 100,000. You need 800,000, so it means everyone will have to go to 8 games. Well, it's these games are costly,
Yeah.
so I don't think it's the entire population that can afford to go 8 times. So population is important. The corporate presence.
Okay.
You need corporations to support via all sorts of marketing that you can sell to these corporations. That's another very important pillar. We also found that the level playing field was important. There used to be a time, and it's still a bit like that in baseball, a little less so, but there used to be a time in baseball where on the same field, you would have the New York Yankees with an overall payroll of 300 million
Mm-hmm.
playing the Montreal Expos with an overall payroll of about 40 million. And you would hope that these two would compete. Well, I'm sorry, but the Yankees have the money to buy off every good player in the league,
Yeah.
and that's why it was constantly the same teams going to the playoffs year in and year out. There's a bit more money redistribution in baseball nowadays, but not all that much. The Yankees are still filthy rich. Doesn't mean they win the championship every year, but
Yeah. They.
so the level playing field was important. And for Canadian teams, of course, the value of the currency was also very important, because most salaries are paid in US dollars. So if
Mm-hmm.
the Canadian dollar is worth 70 cents US, all of a sudden your payroll has just increased on you from the time at which the dollar
Okay.
was at par with the US dollar.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, no, we put together this nice recipe, and we
Wow.
tested it, and it was fun. It was a real blast. I really had a good time, and we even made our own little predictions in the final chapter of the book, where we tried to predict how many professional teams there would be in Canada by 2030. So any interested readers will go see that, and it was fun. But no, again, I think it's really important that uh, to kind of recap, you make incredible connections along the way. Glenn was one of them. Thinking about having fun, and that book was all about that. There's a place for establishing great relationship and
Mm-hmm.
having fun in work. Uh, Too many people view work as work, and
Yeah.
even the attitude
Yeah.
towards work, it pays the bill. Uh, no, look for more than that.
Mm-hmm.
If that's how you're viewing your job, look for another job. You gotta have fun. There's place for fun, and you'll find yourself all the more productive if
Yes.
you're having a blast.
Yeah.
And because, as I said, you won't even notice you're working.
Yeah.
Your kids will turn to you and say, "Hey, you're still working," and you'll turn to them and say, "I'm not working. I'm having fun." And if you have a job that can make you feel that way, hang on to it and just enjoy the ride and take the learnings out of everyone you meet. I think the minute you start considering that you're the teacher and you'll now teach people, you don't have a lot to learn anymore. I think you're going down the wrong route. I learn people out of my employees that are 25, 26, 27 years old on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I had the attitude of no, 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 I'm going to teach them how it's done. Nope, I don't think that way at all, and I don't think anyone should.
Definite, very good advice. I was going, this seems like your message for the audience at the end there. It was really good. But we have something at our home, like we say our superpower is learning. For example, when I ask my daughter, I say, Kayla, what's our superpower? And she says, learning. Mom. I'm like, yeah, good, good answer. Because learning is amazing.
Well, and not only that, I think there's learning, of course, yes. There's also adapting, and
Yeah.
I think that's what separates humans from a lot of other species on the planet,
Mm-hmm.
that we adapt.
Yeah.
You give us a different weather, we'll
Yeah.
find a way to adapt. You
Yeah.
give us a different world, you give us COVID, we adapt. When you think about it, let's be a little cruel for a second.
Sure.
I've been cool so far, and I'm going to be cruel.
Oh no.
Let's think for a second that there's still no humans on the planet. It's all animals,
Mm-hmm.
and COVID hits. Animals would not have had the reflex to isolate and do the social distancing, and you know uh, and we could probably think, and again, I'm sorry for being cruel, but that this could have wiped out the planet,
Mm-hmm.
because let's say in my little hypotheses here that every animal can give it to each other, and not just rhinos giving it to rhinos or giraffe giving it to giraffe, but it
Yeah.
spreads, and chances are it could have wiped out the planet.
Mm-hmm.
And but we're humans, and we saw this and decided to take actions. Yes, you will always have people wondering if these actions were the right actions. I don't want to open this can at all. Uh, but we took action.
Mm-hmm.
And now here we are. Yes, sadly, way too much death later, but um, I like thinking that we're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah,
Is it full safe out there right now? I would not go there. But I think we are seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. And again, humans have proven that you throw a curveball at us,
yeah,
we're going to take the bat and try to hit it the best we can.
for sure, for sure. Because like you said, it's not just taking the learning. Yes, because a lot of people, yes, they learn a lot, but then they're very complacent with what they learn, and then they don't put it into practice. So bringing the word adapting there is pretty good. And yes, I think we're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. So there is hope for sure. I strongly believe in that.
Well,
Uh,
there is hope coming through my window right now. There's light coming through my window. So
no sunshine today, but
yeah,
you know.
I like thinking that we're moving in the right direction. And again, as I said, I don't want to open too many cans here in terms of we
Yes,
handled it
yes, yes,
correctly.
yes, yes.
It's
Yeah,
so easy to start pointing fingers and we should have done this and we should have
yeah.
done that. And nope, I think governments in place have done what they felt was the best response. And it's always easy when you're not in power to say, "Oh, I would have done that. No, I would have done that." I don't second guess.
It's true. It's true. I'm going to ask you a few questions, but short answers. Okay. So, what leader inspired you the most?
Stephen Bolov.
Your favorite book?
Uh, I'm trying to translate it to French. It's Milan Kundera who wrote it. La Plaisanterie.
Is it a funny book?
No, it's actually the complete opposite from funny. It's the story of a guy because Milan Kundera is from the Czech Republic, and he wrote this book about this guy who's got to go and do his 2 years in the army because it was mandatory at the time, and he's got to split from his girlfriend and to do so, and so he writes to her every night. And one day, was it the colonel or sergeant was really tough on him, and he wrote to her something like, "I wish I could just place a bomb under the guy's bed." And what he did not know is that all the letters were read before being sent, and he spent the rest of his life being miserable and regretting it because the
Ah,
army certainly make him pay. And and then at the end of the book, because it doesn't end on a bad note, he's much older at the end of the book, and then he realized that he's wasted all his life, time and energy to try and prove his innocence rather than just saying, you know what, I'm going to give that up, live my life nonetheless. And because he really wanted to clear his name, that he really wanted to prove that the army was wrong for all the tough thing that they put him through. And so he spent his life trying to prove his innocence. And then he realized as he's about to die that he's wasted his time. He
why
should
is
have
that your
lived life.
favorite book? Why is that?
I think there's a lot of morale into this.
Hmm.
Be careful of the battle in which you embarked.
Mm-hmm.
Choose your battle. Don't fight for everything. Not everything is worth fighting for. Be really selective and quite frankly, just move on. I've had all sorts of blows. I talked to you about losing my dad at 16. I talked to you about having $11 in the bank, and you can dwell on it, and you can just sit down at home and dwell and say how unfortunate you are, and but keep moving forward because there will come a time where there won't be that much life remaining, and you don't want to just sit there and say, okay, here's what I've done with my life. I spent 40 or was it 50 years trying to clear my name for what? Spent all this energy and filling papers and going to the court and for what?
Yeah.
Uh, my life just went by. And no, make the best out of life, and it should be almost a daily exercise.
La Plaisanterie, that's the name, huh?
Yeah, La
I think
Plaisanterie from Milan Kundera.
in
The
English
the other book I really like is also from Milan Kundera. Now you will think I'm only reading from an author, but it's The Unbearable Lightness of Being, which is an amazing book. And there's no really story plot to it. But what I like about this book is when you read it at 18, and I was forced to read it because it was a mandatory reading at Cégep at the time. And you read it with your eyes of 18 years old, and then you see this guy who's not behaving nicely with his kids, and then you kind of see him as the bad guy because you're 18 and dad should not be doing that. But then you read the book when you're 30 and when you're 40, and you go, hold on, I think I understand where he's coming from now, because he's really having a difficult time at work, barely bringing money in, and so now you start seeing the request from the kids wanting this and kids wanting that, and as being the bad ones to some extent, and not
yeah.
understanding that daddy cannot offer them that, and
Mm-hmm.
it's really hurting him because he would like to offer them this stuff, but he can't. And so when you read it when you're 40, you're like, it's totally different than when you're 18. So anyway, it's as I said, it's not a book with a plot where there's a murder and then this is how they find him, and actually I don't read that kind of book, quite frankly. I prefer to watch movies about this, but to me, if I read something, it's either that I'm going to learn something out of it, or deep morals, relationships between human beings. I will read a lot
Yeah.
of novels of that kind, but not, who killed who and why. That to me is stuff for movies. But again, I know that there are maniacs of these kinds of books, and
Yes,
respect
yes,
that, of
yes,
course.
yes. Of course. What are some of the tools that you used to keep yourself motivated or driven? Tools, practical stuff.
I can't think of tools really, Kathy, but what I can think of is being honest with myself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if I'm having a little less fun, then it's time I do something. I
Okay.
don't um, I don't blame people.
Yeah,
I will
it's true.
never, go and say, oh well, if now I'm having a little less fun at work, it's because of him or her.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope that they go. No, if I have less fun, I think it's up to me to do something about it. It might be me having to move on to another job,
Mm-hmm.
or it might be me having to change something, or but I'm trying. It's not easy, but I'm trying to be fully honest with myself and making sure that when I ask the question, "Are you still happy doing that?" and I answer yes, that I really mean yes, and not just
Okay.
say yes to get rid of the question and move on to the next one. No, I think being honest with ourselves is very
Mm-hmm.
important,
And
and doing
taking,
something to change it when you're not happy.
and that's taking responsibility. Very good. And my last question to you for today is, what's next for you?
Oh my, it's funny. Barely a year or two ago, I would not even allude to the word retirement. Um, Now, although I'm not planning it,
Mm-hmm.
because as I said, for as long as I'm going to have fun, you're going to find
Yeah.
me here. But I know that there's something I want to do.
Okay.
I do want to teach, not on a full-time basis. I don't want to become a full-time professor, and plus, I don't have the educational credits for that. But I've already been asked a couple of times by universities as to whether I'd come give a course. Not sure the timing just is now, but I'm starting to think about it, and so I will slowly make my way to that, because you can't just go all the way, work till 65, and then go to retirement and then start phoning university and say, you know what, I'm available.
It's too
No.
late.
So yeah, I am slowly going to enter this arena because I don't know. And again, um, it's not about me thinking that, oh, I'm gonna have so much to show these kids, I'm gonna go and show them. No, like I like being around younger people.
Mm-hmm.
They bring a lot of life to a conversation. They bring new ideas. I remember two good friends of mine, which I salute if ever they watch this, Jim Clayton and Avis Devine, had me come and teach a 3 hour period.
Mm.
And when I came over at the Schulich School of Business in Toronto, um, I remember doing the 3 hour, and the first hour and a half, yeah, I did mumble on about a few things, and why cities are important was the topic, and why I think the future economic growth will come from cities, and how the process of urbanization is just unstoppable and will continue, and all that. So that went on for about an hour and a half, and then in the second half,
Mm-hmm.
I remember uh, sitting down with the kids and just talking to them. There was no more teaching anymore. It was not about me like doing a lecture, but it was like really just me sitting down, and there were master's degrees, so it was a smaller class. I think there was something like 18 or 20 of them, and just being there and exchanging with them. I came
Mm-hmm.
out and they were so energized. Like I wanted to walk back to Montreal. Like I was full of energy and new things that I've never heard before, and it was cool. It was just like a very nice experience, and I do adhere to the theory, Kathy, that if you retire to go home and work on your garden, I don't think it flies for a long time. I think you got to keep the sense of purpose.
Yes.
I read this amazing story the other day of a woman. The story does not reveal her age until the end of the article. So the woman goes on and she says, every morning, uh, yes, I'm retired, but every morning I go and I help the people at the market, putting the fruits and vegetables in place. And every morning I do that. Yes, sometimes I wake up, gosh, my knees are hurting, my shoulders are hurting, but I get up, put on my clothes, away I go, and up to the market, and I help them and for an hour, 2 hours. And then you keep on reading until you realize the lady's 103 years old.
Oh, wow.
And then you go, okay, like, you see, that's what I think you need.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, this sense that you're still useful, the sense that
Yes.
is purpose. And so, yes, she's 103. Yes, some morning she's suffering while putting on her clothes, but she does it, and and you can tell that. So, of course, being 103, it's not as if you can still do thousands of things, but
Yeah.
if you can keep that sense of purpose, that sense of being useful, and so yes, I am thinking about retirement. To come back to your original question about what's ahead for me, yes, I'm thinking about retirement, but not retirement as in I'm going to
Yes.
stop. Uh, it's going to be different.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I'm not going to teach 5 courses a week, maybe one, maybe two, I don't know. Time will tell. I'm going to write. Um, Hopefully, some people will still find me fun enough to listen to, that I'll be doing a few conferences a year.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't plan on just sitting and waiting for life to take me away. We got just one, and I've been fortunate so far, and I plan on trying to be as fortunate as possible moving forward.
Amazing.
Thank you, Kathy.